Would the council please come to order? If everyone would please stand, we'll be led in prayer by Alderman Grant Neuendorf.
Almighty God, we ask you for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all your decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen. Alderwoman Tracy Berto, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cut in the corner. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd ask for a motion, please, for the adoption of the minutes of October 3rd and October 17th, 2022. Is there such a motion? Alderwoman Gould, second by Alderman Singh. Is there discussion on the adoption of the minutes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. At this time, I'm going to ask for suspension of our rules for the purpose of adding to the agenda one resolution that deals with an allocation of American Rescue Plan funds for the replacement of the boiler at the Norwich Police Department. An emergency has occurred. Motion for suspension, please. Alderman Singh, second. Alderwoman Gould. No discussion, no roll call on the motion to suspend.
Alderman Wilson?
I just have a small question.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
Nope, it's okay. This is going under new business resolutions, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
It'd
Yes.
be the only resolution,
okay.
actually.
Perfect. Yes.
Thank
Oops, sorry. Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion for suspension passes 7-0. I'd ask for a motion now to add Resolution 1 titled to allocate American Rescue Plan funds for replacement of the boiler at the Norwich Police Station. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Singh. Seeing no discussion, roll call.
Alderman,
Oh, I apologize.
Sorry.
Apologize. Too quick.
So my question is that we're adding this, obviously
they
last
can't hear
minute.
you.
We're adding this last minute to our agenda because there was an emergency with the boiler at the police station?
It's my understanding a significant leak has occurred, and that the expectation is that it will not be there throughout the whole winter, and we don't have one on order yet. You wouldn't want to order a boiler if the funds aren't in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I have a motion, please, to return? Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderwoman Berto. Roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. We are reconvened. Thank you.
Public hearing, number 1. An ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost associated with a tank aeration mixing system at the Richard Bound Drive in the town of Montville, authorizing the issuance of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the City of Norwich and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the State of Connecticut with respect hereto.
At this time, I declare the hearing open. I would ask the city clerk to read the correspondence from the Commission on the City Plan.
Commission on the City Plan. October 26, 2022. To the Honorable Mayor and all the persons of the Council of the City of Norwich. An ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost association with a tank aeration mixing system at the Richard Brown Drive in Town of Montville, and authorizing the issuance of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the City of Norwich secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the City of Norwich and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the State of Connecticut with respect hereto. City Plan, its October 25th, 2022 hybrid regular meeting, reviewed and discussed the above reference referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, Michael Lehan, and Ella Evans. After careful consideration, the Commission voted unanimously to forward a favorable recommendation stating the ordinance is in accordance with recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Again, at this time, the public hearing on this ordinance is open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance, you will have 3 minutes. Please approach the dais. State your name and address for the record. Is anyone here wishing to speak in favor of ordinance number 1? Please, Mr. LaRose.
Good evening, Chris LaRose, General Manager, Norwich Public Utility. The projects that are on the agenda tonight are projects that are in our 5-year capital improvement plan, and we have the opportunity to do them now, providing the best value for our ratepayers. Federal funding through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act will allow us to receive $6.5 million in grants and pay off the remaining loans at 2% interest over 20 years. The funding is being channeled through the Clean Water Fund and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds, and these are the funds that we use to typically fund many of our projects now. The funding levels and the grant percentages have been significantly increased due to this federal funding, and we have the opportunity to get this funding on projects that are typically not high enough up on the priority list to get them paid. And normally on some of these smaller projects, we have to do them using our capital budget. I can equate the projects to home ownership. The sewer projects are like a leaking roof. We need to get them repaired immediately. By lining the Rose Alley, South Thames, and Cove Street force mains that have failed, we have, it'll take care of the problem. We have a temporary above-ground piping that's being rented now, and we're paying monthly fees on those rentals, and we need a permanent repair as soon as possible. The painting of the Yannick tank is like painting your house. If done now, before the primer coat fails, we don't have to do extensive replacement of steel and fabrication on the tank. This is doing it like, you don't have to replace the siding or the windows and doors. The tank aeration is a regulatory requirement. It's kind of like taxes in your house. This is a consent agreement that we have with the state that we have to reduce overall limits in our system. And after completing the dissolved air flotation system in the water tank, these are the next 2 projects that we need to do in these water tanks. These aeration systems reduce the levels and significantly improve water quality. And last project is the line of credit, which is like a home equity loan. It's a $10 million line of credit to finance a future gas or electrical project or a future failure of infrastructure. And this is just putting money in the bank. If we have funds available from other sources, we'll take them, but this is an emergency fund in case we have a catastrophic failure of something large or a need to do a major project in a hurry, and this is a funding source that we've never had before. So those are the projects, and I'll be happy to answer questions in the, after the public hearing.
Thank you, sir. And just for the record, if you feel that you omitted something on the other ordinances as they got brought to us, please don't hesitate to come back up.
All right,
Because we want all the information here, the public record. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor at this time? Anyone else wish to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one else, anyone in opposition to this ordinance at this time? Anyone in opposition to this ordinance? Please. Ms. Filbert.
Good evening, Joanne Philbrick, Norwich Town. I don't know where to begin with this. We have 6 public hearings here. So that means logistically I could get up here 6 times with my 3 minutes. But to spare you the pain and to spare me the pain, perhaps we can come to some sort of mutual agreement. I suffer from severe anxiety, and I'm going to try and hold myself together because I don't want to have a panic attack. But I would ask you to look at the totality of this. It's $15 million plus a $10 million line of credit. That's $25 million. Now, I understand that there will be low-interest loans and grants, but I'm sure most of you are smart enough to know the funding source for loans and grants. It's the taxpayers. It's not the forest of money trees went extinct a long time ago. I attempted to find, we all got our notices in the mail that NPU rates were going up. I think it was 10 to 12% just across the board. Now we're going to add an additional 15 to $25 million. How much is that going to cost? To me, that's not a difficult question. And I respect Mr. LaRose when he makes the analogies about the roof. The difference is that when I need a new roof, I have to find the money someplace. When I need a new boiler, I need to find someplace. I live in a house that was built in 1734. That's almost 300 years. Think about that. Think about the maintenance and the love and the dedication that people put into that house to make it last almost 300 years. So I think in respect to the totality of this, I ask you, how much is too much? I understand these projects need to be done. What I don't understand is why ARPA money wasn't used for some of this. There are a lot of people. The last thing that I'm going to say on this issue, because I know I know in my heart of hearts that you're going to approve all of these things, and we'll all get our bills, and we'll all find a way to pay them. I don't know what we're going to give up next. But I think what upsets me more than anything is that this city has 37,000 people. 37,000 people. This auditorium holds what, 400, 500? If you take the volunteers out of the equation, how many people are here? How many people are vested in this city? How many people are interested? How many people care? And the answer is this: none. I asked somebody the other day, somebody that I respect, who has been sort of a pillar in this community for years and years, and I said to them, I said, do you think it's the apathy or the ignorance? And they said, I think it's a combination of both. So I just would like you to think about when you pass these, and Mr. LaRose, with all due respect, you told me that NPU has $50 million in the bank. You told me that. So it is Norwich Public Utilities. We are the stakeholders. We are the ones that put the money up, and it will be by, so I'm just curious if someone could tell me, how much it's going to cost in dollars and cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in opposition at this time? Anyone else in opposition at this time? Anyone else in opposition at this time? Seeing no one else in opposition at this time, in public hearing number 1, I declare this hearing closed.
Number 2, an ordinance appropriating $2,250,000 for the cost of rehabilitation and replacement of the Rose Alley Pump Station, Force Main, in the city of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $2,250,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. Commission on the City Plan dated October 26, 2022. The Honorable Mayor and alderpersons of the Council of the City of Norwich. An ordinance appropriating $2,250,000 for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the Rose Alley Pump Station, Force Main, in the City of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $2,250,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenues to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. The Commission on the City Plan at its October 25, 2022 hybrid regular meeting reviewed and discussed the above reference referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, Michael Lahan, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted unanimously to forward a favorable recommendation stating that the ordinance is in accordance with the recommendation of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Again, at this time, I declare the public hearing on number 2 to be open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Mr. LaRose.
I can give a little brief overview of this one. This one here is the 20-inch force main that goes under the east branch of the Yannick River. And this one has failed, and you can see a large plastic above-ground pipe along Puts-Up Dock across the bridge and then back down under on the other side of the bridge in the marina. This one here, there is a possible ability of doing a lining of the existing pipe, and if that's the case, we're going to try that first. If that works, we may be able to do it significantly less than a $2.25 million. That's our hope, and that we can do that. If we run into problems, this is the worst case for all of the project to be replaced. And happy to answer questions later if need be.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else listening to speak in favor at this time? Anyone wish to speak in favor at this time? Anyone wish to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one else, is there anyone here in opposition to this ordinance for public hearing number 2? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one else, then I declare this hearing to be closed as well. Thank you.
Number 3, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of non-revolving master line of credit facility and related documents by the City of Norwich Department of Public Utilities, an amount not to exceed $10 million to finance capital improvements related to its gas and electric infrastructure. From the Commission on City Plan, the Honorable Mayor and alderpersons of the Council of the City of Norwich, regarding an ordinance authorizing the issuance of non-revolving master line of credit facility and related documents by the City of Norwich Department of Public Utilities, and an amount not to exceed $10 million to finance capital improvements related to its gas and electric infrastructure. The Commission and the City Plan at its October 25th, 2022 hybrid regular meeting reviewed and discussed the above reference referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted unanimously to forward a favorable recommendation stating that the ordinance is in accordance with the recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Again, this public hearing is open, and I would invite anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time for public hearing number 3. Mr. LaRose.
So this line of credit for the $10 million is above the $50 million that we have in the bank in cash. And that cash is there for bond rating, it's there for emergencies, it's there if we have a catastrophic event. This here is something above and beyond that, and it allows us to fund a gas or electric project where there's typically not clean water, drinking water type funding available. And if we had a major failure of a substation that had to get fixed immediately, this would be a place where we could come and tap into that money. We will go through all the regular processes for accessing that money. So this is not just a blank check and we just do projects. We will go through all of the normal conventional ways, but this is an extra funding source that we've never had in the past. And we're looking for some help there.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who will speak in favor of this ordinance at this time for public hearing number 3? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one, is anyone here in opposition to ordinance number 3? Please.
Sheila Hayes, 382 Laurel Hill Avenue. I didn't get up to speak in favor of it because Mr. LaRose made a comment as he was speaking that they would go through the normal channels, but he didn't explain what the normal channels are. Because my understanding would be that if there was an emergency under electric or gas, then they'd have to come in front of the council for bonding, as is being proposed with the other items that are on the public hearing that we're going through. So with the line of credit, does that exclude NPU from having to come in front of the public? Or is that still part of the process? And if the public is against using the line of credit, then how does that impact NPU's ability in the future? I mean, I don't understand really why we're setting up a line of credit if there's a process in place. That's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance at this time? Anyone wish to speak in opposition at this time? Anyone else wish to speak in opposition at this time? Seeing no one else, I then declare the hearing closed. Thank you.
Number 4, an ordinance appropriating $6,750,000 for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the South Thames Street Pump Station, Force Main, in the city of Norwich, authorizing the issuance of $6,750,000 revenue bonds to meet of the city secured solely by sewer revenues to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements with a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. I declare this public hearing number 4 to be open, and you will hear from the CCP.
Commission on the City Plan, October 26, 2022. The Honorable Mayor and all the persons of the Council of the City of Norwich, an ordinance appropriating $6,750,000 for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the South Thames Street Pump Station, Force Main, in the City of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $6,750,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. Commission on the City Plan met on October 25th, 2022, hybrid regular meeting, reviewed and discussed the above reference referral, Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, Michael Lehan, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted a favorable recommendation stating that the ordinance is in accordance with recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Votes in favor, Frank Manfredi, Les King, Ella Miles. Votes in opposition, none. Abstention, Michael Lehan. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one in favor, is there anyone in opposition at this time? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition, I then declare the hearing closed. Thank you.
Number 5, an ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost associated with a tank aeration mixing system at the Stanley Israelite Business Park in the city of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city of Norwich and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. Commission on the City Plan, October 26, 2022. The Honorable Mayor and alderpersons of the Council of City of Norwich. An ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for costs associated with a tank aeration mixing system at the Stanley Israelite Business Park in the city of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the City of Norwich and Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements with a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. The Commission on the City Plan at its October 25, 2022 hybrid regular meeting reviewed and discussed the above reference referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, Michael Lehan, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted unanimously to forward a favorable recommendation stating that the ordinance is in accordance with the recommendations of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance for public hearing number 5 at this time? Mr. LaRose.
The two mixing and aeration systems for the tanks are required to lower disinfection byproducts in our water system. And when these tanks were designed, they were designed for fire protection only and not for water quality. A new modern tank is more like the Yannick Lane tank, which is got a smaller volume but has still the pressure and volume we needed for a fire. There's a lot of wasted water in these. And when you have water that's getting old in the tank and it combines with chlorination, it creates these disinfection byproducts. This aeration system reduces that, and we have done that already in the Aquam tank and other large, oversized tank, and that has reduced the disinfection levels up to 90% in the tank and 50 to 70% in areas served. So both of these aeration projects are very critical to water quality, and they were the next step as far as meeting the state requirements.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Anyone else like to speak in favor at this time? Anyone else like to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one else in favor, is there anyone in opposition? Yep.
My name is Stephen Case, 31 South A Street, Taft. I just have a couple of questions. I thought when you start spending this kind of money, you had to go back to the citizen and ask permission to spend.
Excuse me, Steve, could you a little closer to the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you.
I thought when you start spending $25 million, you had to put it on a referendum or something so the taxpayers could have a yes or no on this. You know, every time I came here for a fire truck, I had to go to bond, I had to go to all kinds of stuff like that. Well, you guys are going to spend the next 25 years of fire trucks in one night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone to speak in opposition at this time? Anyone else like to speak in opposition at this time? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one at this time, I declare this hearing closed. Thank you.
Number 6, an ordinance authorizing $2.4 million for the planning, design, repair of the Yannick water tanks in the city of Norwich, and authorizing the issuance of $2,400,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. From the Commission on City Plan, dated October 26, 2022, to the Honorable Mayor and alderpersons of the Council of the City of Norwich, an ordinance appropriating $2,400,000 for the planning, design, and repair of the Yannick water tank in the city, authorizing the issuance of $2,400,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto. The Commission on the City Plan at its October 25, 2022 hybrid regular meeting reviewed and discussed the above reference referral. Seated were Frank Manfredi, Les King, Michael Lahan, and Ella Miles. After careful consideration, the Commission voted to forward a favorable recommendation stating the ordinance is in accordance with the recommendations of the Planning of Conservation and Development. Frank Manfredi, Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance for public hearing number 6? Mr. LaRose.
The Yannick tank was constructed in 2004, and the coating is coming to the end of its useful life. We want to get this painted before it starts breaking through the primer coating and starts causing serious damage to the steel. So that's why we're looking to do this now, and we can get a 30% grant for this project.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor at this time? Ordinance for public hearing number 6. Anyone else in favor at this time? Anyone else in favor at this time? Anyone else in favor? Seeing no one else in favor at this time, is there anyone in opposition at this time? Anyone in opposition at this time? Is there anyone in opposition at this time? Seeing no one else in opposition, I declare this hearing closed. Thank you.
Number 7, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 20 of the Code of Ordinances by establishing a hearing procedure for parking violations.
I declare this public hearing open at this time. Anyone wish to speak in favor, please approach the dais, name and address and so forth, 3 minutes each. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance amending our parking issues? Anyone in favor of this ordinance as proposed? Anyone in favor of this ordinance as proposed? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one in favor, is there opposition to this ordinance affecting parking violations at this time? Is there opposition to this ordinance as proposed? Third and final, is there opposition to this ordinance as proposed concerning parking violations? Seeing no one wishing to discuss, I declare the public hearing closed as well.
Second reading and action on the above ordinances previously presented. Number one, an ordinance appropriating $1.8 million for the cost associated with the tank aeration mixing system at the Richard Brown Drive in the town of Montville, authorizing the issuance of $1.8 million revenue bonds of the city of Norwich secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the City of Norwich and Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements with a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
Mr. LaRose, would you mind coming back to the podium? Four questions. Do you have any idea what ordinance number 2 and ordinance number 4, saying that it would be paid for by sewer revenues? Do you know what the impact would be on an
No,
average homeowner?
Excuse me, but we're only on the first ordinance. We need to
Okay, I'm
keep our
sorry. All right.
comments restricted.
I'll limit it to for water revenue. Do we know what the impact would be?
For the aeration systems?
Yes.
Okay, so those are, when we put together our rate package for the last 3 years, these projects were discussed and in there. Until we actually get the final grant number and the final implementation date, we won't know exactly what that is. Right now, our water rates will be impacted down the road, but they'll be impacted worse if we don't do these. We don't have that exact number. We'll be doing that cost of service study in the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Is there further questions on ordinance number 1? President Pro Tem.
Could you be more specific on the negative impacts if we don't move forward with this project?
If we don't do these, we're in a consent agreement and on the water aeration, and it's part of our long-term plan to do this project. We'll be in violation of the consent agreement, so we need to get this done. So there could be potential, if we have exceedances in the future, we could have fines and issues with Department of Health.
So that's a regulatory implication.
It's a regulatory, yes.
What
It's
about
meeting
a
regulatory
financial
requirements.
or fiscal?
This
impact?
makes higher quality water, and it's meeting the requirements of a consent agreement to lower disinfection byproducts in our system.
So I'm a little confused then. So you're not saying that if we don't spend this $1.8 million, that some other bad thing will happen that will cost us more than $1.8 million down the road?
I can't tell you what, if we have exceedances, what those fines would be, but just like we have to improve water quality because regulations change, this is a project required to meet those more stringent requirements that were put into place.
Well, that much I understand, but from reading some of the material that we've been given on this, it seemed to me that there was also the lack of doing this, or I don't want to say the word neglect, but if we don't do this, that there'll be either damage long-term to the equipment or...
There's a difference between the painting, which it would cause degradation of the tank. This is a mixing system. So what it does is it aerates the water, the disinfection products volatilize, and they get expended out instead of staying in the water.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. LaRose, if I could just, our ability to access clean water funds, is that not contingent upon us being in compliance? And at some point in time, if a city is, in this case, since we run our own utility system, if we don't keep these agreements that we've entered into, could that not subject us to possible loss of the Clean Water Fund access? And that would be a dire response from the state, but at the end of the day, they control the funds of the Clean Water Fund.
They can force us to do this project, and it would be at their terms and on their schedule. If by getting this scheduled and done and organized, then we can get this done appropriately using those funds.
Thank you. Other members? Okay. Thank you, sir. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The ordinance is adopted 7-0.
Number 2, an ordinance appropriating $2,250,000 for the cost of rehabilitation and replacement of the Rose Alley Pump Station, Force Main, in the city of Norwich, authorizing the issue of $2,250,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderman Singh, second. Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderman Wilson.
It's not just specific to this one, but I think it was someone to address the question that was asked by the audience as to the process of the expenditure of $25 million in essence, and why it doesn't go to referendum and things of that sort. Just for the public record, could we explain that to them?
These are these are revenue bonds. General obligation bonds absolutely must go to referendum. Revenue bonds with dedicated funding are not bound to that same requirement for us, and certainly the corporate counsel could explain it better, but
There's also a higher limit on when you have to go out. The $800,000 figure does not, the $800,000 figure doesn't apply to bonds because the state statute's been changed with respect to water and sewer, so that's part of it.
Okay, thank you. I just figured we're sitting here explaining or getting ready to vote on certain things, and there was a question that wasn't answered, so thank you.
thank you, sir. That was very important. Is there further discussion on this ordinance? I would point out that in Section 2, it points out that this is eligible for up to 50% funding under the Clean Water Fund program, which is significant dollars. A roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. The ordinance is adopted.
Number 3, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of non-revolving master line of credit facility and related documents by the City of Norwich, Department of Public Utilities, in an amount not to exceed $10 million to finance capital improvements related to its gas and electric infrastructure.
Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderman Gould, second by Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
I'm going to ask Mr. LaRose to come back to the podium, and I'll stick to number 3. My first question, without this $10 million line of credit, what would the impact be on Norwich Public Utilities?
So we've never had an issue where we ran out of cash, but if we had a catastrophic event, this would be a quick access to cash. It still requires the board to approve the expenditure. It requires it to be a utility related project. It has to be something that is necessary for the business of the utility. But if we had, a Category 3 storm and we had to replace a substation as a result, this would be a place to tap that money. It's in addition to the $50 million. We don't pay anything until we draw it down. There's a small reserve fee, but we don't pay anything until we use it, and the plan is to hopefully never have to use it.
So there is an annual fee, or there is not an annual fee?
There's a small annual fee, yes.
And do we know, so this would be paid for by electric and gas users?
Whatever the loan was used for would have to be paid for by that division, and this has been vetted by bond counsel and by the city treasurer and Josh Pothier.
Thank you.
Alderman Singh.
Thank you. So of course, we got recommendation from Commission on City Plan on this, favorable one. Just few questions. Let's say if we don't do this right now, and then there is a situation we need that $10 million, what rate of interest you will be paying then, and what rate of interest do you think you'll be paying now when you have this opportunity to use that?
All right, so like I said, there's no projects, there's no plans to use this, and that rate is based on when it's being used.
Okay, but are we getting better rate of interest for this line of revolving credit at this point than if we have to get this line of credit when there is a need?
Well, the problem is that when you have the need, you don't necessarily have the time to do it, if this were something that was an emergency fund. So,
Okay. Now, is this directly related to any like Route 82 project or any other business park project?
no, it's not.
Okay. And the third thing is, in order to use this line of credit, I think you still need 2/3 of the council vote,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there further questions? Alderman Wilson.
Thank you again for coming tonight. My sole question is at this moment, we've never, of course, done this until now. What is the, I guess, urgency to get this done now compared to holding off? I mean, I think for me, that the reason I'm asking that question is we've heard several people talk about $25 million. And whatever way we shake it, I think that's just the figure that individuals are looking at, possibly being expended. Granted, this is not being used right at the moment or any of those things, but just what's the urgency at this point for the $10 million line item?
So this is like your line of credit. So you have a 20-year-old house and you have a line of credit. Don't plan on using it ever, but if your roof starts leaking or your boiler fails, then you can tap in. That's the kind of use that this would be.
I guess for me is, years before this, why was this not something that was possibly thought of?
All right, so some organizations have this. For instance, CMEC has a line of credit. We've always used cash reserves only, and this is a way of using this to enhance cash reserves if there was something else that came along. It was brought up by one of our board members, and there's something that it's an extra security, an extra, an extra fail-safe if there is an emergency. Something we've never had and never contemplated, but it's done by other organizations like ours, and it's as long as we're using it for the right utility issues, it can be used. We aren't able to use it in water and sewer because of the complications of the statutes and how we use clean water drinking water funds. But this is something that could be used in an emergency for gas or electric.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. President Pro Tem.
So Chris, maybe the better analogy would be, we were running a business, Alderwoman Gould runs a business, Alderman Singh runs a business, right? So in business, you have you have your revenue and you have your expenses, right? You try to have some savings, a safety net, and then many businesses will have a line of credit for when maybe business and revenue drops off a little bit less than projected, or as you said, something happens, then you have credit and money available to you essentially at the end of your arm's reach in order to meet whatever that challenge is. And that more, considering the fact that the utility is a business, it's
Yes.
a business owned by the ratepayers and by the city, but it's still business. Isn't that a better analogy to really describe what you and the board are trying to do here?
Yes.
Is that a fair analogy?
That is a fair analogy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Yeah, your hand up?
Well, no, I was just going to ask for a motion for a quick 5-minute recess, just to discuss that caucus.
If you wish, certainly. A motion to, we don't need a motion. We're in recess for 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, thank you.
Wilson.
No, I just, for me, the only thing is I just wanted to make sure, I asked the questions because, of course, they're important to not only us up here, but also the people in the audience at home about the impact of this and understanding the terms and conditions. And I think the most important piece that it explains within is the structure it still has to go through in order for approval. So I think that's the part that has been explained for me, so that's all.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would also add that over the years that I've had the honor of serving as mayor, there were several other bonds put forth that did in fact go, I believe, to the voters, and that was about expanding gas consumption across the city of Norwich, and many utilities and businesses and residents bought into that. And if this line of credit is there going forward also to protect those extensions, I think that's a good investment. Again, hopefully you don't have to draw on it. That's the whole key. But it gives us that ability to respond because, God forbid, a line goes out and someone no longer can heat their home, run their business. We don't ever want to be in that position, so I'll be supporting this. If there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gold?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Ordinance is adopted 7-0. Thank you.
Number 4, an ordinance appropriating $6,750,000 for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the South Thames Street Pump Station, Force Main, in the city of Norwich, and authorizing the issuance of $6,750,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenues to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. Motion, please bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? No discussion. I will also share that this project can be funded up to 50% by the Clean Water Fund, just for the public record. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Ordinance is adopted 7-0.
Number 5, an ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost associated with a tank aeration mixing system at the Stanley Industrial-Light Business Park in the city of Norwich, and authorizing the issuance of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city of Norwich and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring it to the floor. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
A motion passes 7-0. Ordinance is adopted.
Number 6, an ordinance appropriating $2,400,000 for the planning, design, repair of the Yannick water tank in the city, authorizing the issuance of $2,400,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? I would only put on the record that this tank actually is a key component of fire protection services to everyone up on that hill in that part of the city. And so it's very, very important that we maintain this and keep this up to date. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. The ordinance is adopted.
Number 7, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 20 of the Code of Ordinances by establishing a hearing procedure for parking violations.
A motion to bring this to the floor, please. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Petitions and communication. Report from the Commission on City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich Charter. An ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost associated with the tank aeration mixing system at the Richard Brown Drive in the town of Montville, and authorizing the issuance of $1,800,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city of Norwich and Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Motion, please, to receive this communication. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Wilson. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 2, report from the Commission on City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes and Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter. An ordinance appropriating $2.25 million for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the Rose Alley Pump Station Force Main in the city of Norwich, and authorizing the issuance of $2,250,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements with a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. A motion, please, to receive this communication. Alderman Wilson, second by Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 3, a report from the Commission on the City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of non-revolving master line of credit facility and related documents by the City of Norwich Department of Public Utilities in the amount not to exceed $10 million to finance capital improvements related to its gas and electric infrastructure.
A motion, please, to receive this communication. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 4, report from the Commission on the City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Chapter 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes and Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter, an ordinance appropriating $6,750,000 for the cost of the rehabilitation and replacement of the South Thames Street Pump Station Force Main in the City of Norwich, and authorizing the issuance of $6,750,000 revenue bonds of the city secured solely by sewer revenues to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the sewer authority to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Motion, please, to receive. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Wilson. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
A motion passes 7-0.
Number 5, report from the Commission on the City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 15, Section 4 of the Norwich City Charter, an ordinance appropriating $1,800,000 for the cost associated with the tank aeration mixing system at the Stanley Israelite Business Park in the City of Norwich, authorizing the issuance of $1.8 million revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the City of Norwich and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements and a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
Thank you. A motion to receive, please. Alderman Singh, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 6, report from the Commission on City Plan of the City of Norwich pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 15, Section 4 of the City of Norwich Charter, an ordinance appropriating $2.4 million for the planning, design, and repair of the Yannick water tank in the city, and authorizing the issue of $2.4 million revenue bonds of the city secured solely by water revenue to meet said appropriation, and authorizing the city and the Department of Public Utilities to enter into grant and loan agreements with a joint resolution with the state of Connecticut with respect hereto.
A motion, please, to receive. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Wilson. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Letter, that is not quite right. The title is not quite right on the agenda. Letter of resignation from Mark Adams from the School Building Committee 2020.
A motion to receive this, please. Alderman Gould, second. Alderman Roberto. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
City Manager's Report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for November 7th, 2022. The meetings attended were with state representatives and legislators, Southeastern Council of Governments Executive Committee meeting, Southeastern Area Transit, NPU City Coordination meeting, NCDC Board of Directors meeting, State of Connecticut Task Force to study indoor air quality in school buildings, tour with Senator Chris Murphy, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities Board, and Director meeting CCM Annual Conference and Fire Chiefs. The City Hall elevator repairs are still underway, and we should have a completion date by the end of this week. Norwich Human Services, Rose City Senior Center, and Youth and Family and Recreation Division have joined forces, and with a generous grant from the Lord Foundation, are excited to announce that pickleball courts will be built next to the Senior Center. This is a great opportunity to bring this community building sport, this community a sport to the city. Thank you to the Recreation Department for hosting a trunk or treat celebration at the Senior Center, which was a huge success with over 35 trunks and approximately 2,000 attendees, and created a safe place for family fun. Thank you all to the Norwich Halloween Strut Committee, along the Norwich Events Organization, and volunteers who brought all ages to our downtown the following evening. Plans are underway to make next year's event bigger and better. During the month of October, in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, our police and fire departments had pink patches for optional wear on uniforms. Our firefighters wore pink t-shirts while on duty to honor survivors of breast cancer and promote awareness. The Cultural Coalition, in partnership with the city, has scheduled 3 community information input sessions, with the first scheduled for November 15th via Zoom. Information is available on the city's Facebook page or at culturesect.org. Attached is the fiscal year end reports for June 30th, 22, and a quarterly September 30th report from Treasurer Michael Gualtieri. As a result of the significant and anticipated continued rise in interest rates, we will reach our budgeted 2022-23 fiscal year income from investment goal of $450,000 in November 2022. As October 31st, that number sits at $425,410. The annual amount should come in between $1 million and $1,500,000, which is dependent on how the Fed influences interest rates. And attached are reports. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Other questions of the city manager? Alderwoman Gould.
I just want to make a quick comment that if you missed Saturday night in downtown for the Norwich Halloween Strut, you missed a really great time. And I want to thank the Norwich Events Organization and the Strut Committee for putting this together, to Frank Manfredi for coming up with the idea, and Deanna Rose sort of ran with the ball. It was a great evening. There were a lot of people downtown. And if you missed it, come make plans to mark it on your calendar to come next year. It will be bigger and better. It was a great evening, and with a lot of people in costume. And it was just a great night downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion in the city manager? Yes, President Pro Tem.
John, first question is on the City Hall repairs. You said that we should have a completion date by the end of the week, not that it'll be completed by the end of the week. Is that,
Well, it might be within a week or two of that. I didn't want to be specific because I'm getting more information,
yeah.
but it's close.
But by the end of the week, we'll have some idea.
Yeah,
how
we'll
much
have
longer.
a real concrete date.
Okay, which is still somewhat flexible,
Right.
as always.
Right. But we're
The,
getting close to the end.
Right. The other question, so what's the plan if we do come in with our interest income at, $500 to $1 million more than we budgeted?
Well, it's a good problem to have. First of all, two things can happen. One is it can go directly into the fund balance to increase the fund balance, or if the city wishes, it can also be reappropriated for other items during the year, or it can be used in next year's revenue to offset taxes. So there's 3 or 4 different options. It's one of the only good things I could think about with interest rates going up. It does affect us positively for our investments.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
So are we repairing the elevator, or I thought we were getting new one, seems like it, the elevator itself?
I didn't hear all that.
The elevator, are we
Oh, we're getting,
repairing it, or are we getting the new one?
the elevator, most of the mechanical parts stay. All the electronic components of the elevator are being replaced. So all its electronics are brand new. Taking it from old-fashioned AC switches up to what we have now. But the hardware is still in good shape. The lift system, it's hydraulic, it is very solid, and cabling and other things still run okay. And it took so long because to get the equipment ordered was a long process, like all the other supply chain issues that are surrounding us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Should let everyone know that the new sign for the Norwich Senior Center, which we now have renamed the Jan Stewart sign, has been designed, and it's in the process of being ordered, as well as a plaque. I've notified her son, Kevin Stewart, as well as the family is still extremely grateful for the honor that we chose to bestow on Jan Stewart in her memory for all her service to the city. So that day is coming sooner rather than later, finally. And so please stay tuned for an invitation, and that applies to the public as well, when that will be dedicated. And I want to speak to the fact that the elevator is operational before the end of this month. The council will continue to meet here on December 5th. That is what we advertised. We have the Business Park North zone change that is proposed. We are going to be here in this facility. To change that even several weeks ago would have caused us to go back and reallocate more funds to re-advertise and to classifies and comply with all those other requirements and additional notices to all and any abutters, as well as neighboring towns and organizations, including state offices. So that will not change. Whether the elevator is operational or not, let's say even in a couple of weeks, we're going to be here December 5th for that important issue dealing with zoning. I want that clarified. Thank you. If there's no other questions.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Citizen comment on resolution is open. The one resolution on tonight's agenda is the one we added under emergency request to deal with the boiler at the police department. If you wish to speak in favor at this time, again, please identify your name and address. Pardon me? Yeah, it's just in favor. You don't have to say against, but you could, I guess. Anyone wishing to speak at this time on general citizen comment on this resolution? Anyone wish to speak at this time? Anyone wish to speak at this time? Seeing no one wish to speak at this time, I declare general citizen comment on one resolution closed. Thank you.
New business resolution relative to allocate American Rescue Funds for replacement of the boiler at the Norwich Police Department.
Motion, please bring this to the floor. Alderman Gould, second Alderman Berto. Is there discussion? Again, for members of the public, this has been determined to be an emergency. We must have heat in our police station throughout the winter, but we also must know that there's funding available in order to place an order for this. That's why this is here on this basis. Thank you. No further discussion, a roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. The resolution is adopted.
New ordinance number 1, an ordinance amending section 8-17 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances.
Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. At this time, the motion will be to schedule for public hearing, to waive the full text and reading at this time.
So moved.
Motion by President Pro Tem, second. We need to select a date.
The dates?
November?
I have the dates.
Okay.
So, public hearing on 11/21, second reading and action on 12/5.
So again, for members of the public, the proposed public hearing is the second meeting of the council this month on the 21st, with action taken on December 5th. Everyone clear on that? Any discussion, anything? No? Okay. I'm sorry. Who was the second again?
Wilson.
Oh, Alderman Wilson.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
No.
Alderman Neuendorf?
No.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
No.
So that's 4-3.
Motion is passed on a 4-3 vote. Thank you.
Number 2.
Excuse me?
Oops, I'm sorry.
Please.
I think as is customary, I know that I'm taking this out of order, but as customary, I'd like to refer new business ordinance number 1 to the Public Safety Committee.
Would the agreement of the council consider that a friendly amendment of our past action?
Sure.
Should have been. Absolutely, that's correct. Any disagreement on that? Okay. So matter is considered to have been referred to the public safety meeting, which again is this Wednesday evening.
Number 2, an ordinance repealing section 8-18 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances and replacing it with an amendment, section 818.
Motion at this time to raise this for public hearing and waive its full text and reading. Question, are we following the same pattern, or? So the public hearing will be scheduled for November 21st with final vote on December 5th?
And referral to Public Safety.
And with referral to public safety. Thank you. And a second for that, please? Alderwoman Berto. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
No.
Alderman Neuendorf?
No.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
No.
So that's 4-3.
Motion passes 4-3. Thank you. Alderwoman Gould.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into an executive session to discuss the acquisition or disposition of real estate or interest in real estate when publicly regarding the site and proposal including proposed construction, would adversely impact the price of the same as to the interest of the city, to review preliminary drafts concerning proposed development and use of the property feasibility estimates and evaluations. The council having determined that the public interest in withholding such clearly outweighs the public interest in disclosure, as well as to review commercial or financial information provided in confidence not required by statute. City Manager John Salamone, President Norwich Community Development Corp. Kevin Brown, Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Is there a second? Alderman Singh. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto? Yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. Board of Ed conference room, please.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you. So you there? Yeah, I'll come tomorrow. I'm gonna take everybody's new plates too tonight.
The council come back to order. Let the record show that no votes were taken during the executive session. May I have a motion, please, to return? Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Roll call, Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Berto?
Yes.
Singh?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Nurendorf?
Yes.
DeLucia? Nystrom, yes. We are back in session. May I have a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn? Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Wilson. Roll call, Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
Berto? Singh?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Nurendorf?
Yes.
DeLucia? Nystrom, yes. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Please turn the mics off.